silent, painful sobs. He felt empty, rejected, and completely unloved. Yet, despite the immense pain, he wiped his face. He washed his eyes with cold water so Taehyung wouldn't see the redness. He spent hours cooking a grand dinner, pouring all his remaining energy into making Taehyung's favorite dishes. He wanted to give Taehyung one more chance to notice him, one more chance to come back to their family. The kitchen smelled of garlic, rosemary, and the rich, savory aroma of braised beef short ribs, Taehyung's absolute favorite meal. Jungkook worked like a man possessed. He cleaned the house until it shone, set the table with their finest linen, and placed a small vase of fresh white lilies, the flowers from their wedding bouquet, in the center. He was fighting. He was fighting for his marriage, for his family, for the fragments of the man he still loved with every fiber of his being. Maybe if he sees how much I care, maybe if I try harder, he will remember us. Jungkook desperately thought, his hands trembling as he poured wine into 2 crystal glasses. The heavy thud of the front door opening sent a bolt of anxiety straight through him. "Appa!" Kookie squealed, running from the living room toward the entryway. Jungkook smoothed down his apron, taking a deep, stabilizing breath to steady the erratic pounding of his heart. He walked out to the hallway just as Taehyung was picking Kookie up, though the embrace was brief, almost perfunctory. Taehyung looked exhausted, his brow furrowed. The light Jungkook had seen in the cafe completely vanished. "Welcome home, Tae," Jungkook said, his voice soft, filled with a fragile hope. "I made your favorite tonight, the short ribs. The table is all set." Taehyung sighed, setting Kookie down on his feet. He didn't look at the beautifully set table, nor did he look at Jungkook. He kept his eyes on his briefcase as he unbuttoned his coat. "I told you I had a late meeting, Jungkook. I already ate." The words fell like lead in the quiet hallway. Jungkook felt his smile falter, the muscles in his face aching from the strain of holding it up. "Oh, but I called your office at 4, and they said you had left for a meeting out of the building. I hoped you'd come home for dinner. It's been a while since we sat down together." Taehyung's head snapped up, his eyes flashing with sudden, sharp irritation. "Are you tracking my schedule now? Checking up on me with my staff? I don't need a warden, Jungkook. I am a grown man." "I wasn't checking up on you," Jungkook defended, his voice rising slightly before he remembered Kookie was standing right there. He forced his tone back down, his eyes pleading. "I just wanted to do something nice for you. Look at the table, Tae. I spent hours. And I told you I'm not hungry." Taehyung snapped, his voice booming through the apartment. Kookie flinched, taking a step back, his small eyes widening with fear. Taehyung saw the boy's reaction and pinched the bridge of his nose, exhaling a sharp, breathy curse. "Look, I'm going to the study. I have more files to review. Don't disturb me." He picked up his briefcase and walked down the hall, the door to the study slamming shut behind him. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Jungkook stood in the middle of the hallway, staring at the closed door. The pain in his abdomen flared up again, a sharp, twisting agony that made him gasp and lean against the wall for support. He pressed a hand against his stomach, his breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps. "Dada," Kookie whispered, tears welling up in his large eyes. He walked over and wrapped his small arms around Jungkook's leg. "Is Appa mad at us? Did I do something bad?" Jungkook dropped to his knees, burying his face in his son's small shoulder. He held the little boy so tightly, his body shaking with silent, devastating sobs. "No, baby. No, you didn't do anything wrong. Appa is he's just very tired. Dada loves you so much. You are the best boy in the whole world." That night, Jungkook sat alone at the dining table. He didn't eat a single bite. He packed the food away into containers, blew out the candles, and threw the beautiful white lilies into the trash can. The frost had settled completely. The garden was gone. 2 days later, the atmosphere in the apartment was thick with an unspoken tension. It was breakfast time. Kookie was happily eating his cereal, oblivious to the storm brewing across the table. Taehyung was nursing a cup of black coffee, his eyes dark, staring intensely at a set of legal documents hidden inside his folder. Once Kookie finished and ran to his room to pack his school bag, Taehyung finally spoke. His voice was cold, completely devoid of emotion. "Jungkook, we need to talk." Jungkook stopped wiping the kitchen counter. He kept his back turned to Taehyung for a brief second, closing his eyes, bracing himself. He knew what was coming. He had felt it in his bones. He turned around, his face a calm, neutral mask. "What is it, Tae?" Taehyung slid a thick manila envelope across the dining table. The bold words stamped on the front read, "Petition for dissolution of marriage. Divorce." Jungkook looked at the papers, then looked up into the eyes of the man he had loved for a decade. Taehyung looked back at him with an icy determination.
"I want a divorce," Taehyung said clearly, his voice steady. "I'm not going to lie to you, Jungkook. I've fallen in love with someone else. I am bored of this marriage. I feel suffocated here, and I can't keep living a lie just to keep up appearances." The honesty was brutal. It cut deeper than any physical blade could. Jungkook felt a hot surge of tears burn behind his eyes, but he forced them back. He wouldn't beg. He wouldn't humiliate himself for a man who had already checked out of their life. Instead, a sad, heartbreaking smile formed on Jungkook's lips. His eyes glistened with unshed tears, but he kept his voice soft, incredibly gentle. "I see. If you are unhappy, I won't force you to stay. I will not drag out a marriage where you feel caged, Tae." Taehyung blinked, clearly taken by surprise. He had expected a fight. He had expected screaming, crying, accusations, anger. The quiet acceptance caught him completely off guard. He cleared his throat, shifting uncomfortably in his chair. I will make sure you are taken care of," Taehyung said quickly, his voice carrying a hint of defensiveness. "You can keep the apartment. I will give you whatever alimony you want, and I will fully support Kookie's education and lifestyle. You won't have to worry about finances at all." Jungkook shook his head slowly, stepping closer to the table. "I don't want your money, Taehyung. I don't want the apartment. I don't want anything from you." "Then what do you want?" Taehyung asked, his brow furrowing. "You can't just leave with nothing." "I just have one request," Jungkook said, his voice dropping into a whisper, a single tear finally escaping and tracing a path down his pale cheek. "Just one last request, and then I will sign the papers and walk out of your life forever." "What is it?" "Delay the divorce for 3 months, Jungkook said, looking directly into Taehyung's eyes. "Just 90 days. I want you to live here, in this house, with me and Kookie, like we used to. No secretary, no late nights out. Just be my husband and Kookie's appa for 3 more months." Taehyung's face hardened, his expression turning into one of deep irritation. He stood up, slamming his hand lightly on the table. "Why are you doing this, Jungkook? What is the point of dragging this out for 3 months? It's completely unnecessary. It's just going to make things harder for everyone. Why do you want this?" Jungkook looked up at him, his heart breaking over and over again. "For Kookie," Jungkook lied softly, his voice trembling with the weight of the secret he carried. "A sudden divorce will destroy his mental health, Tae. He worships you. Let me break it to him slowly. Let him have one last season of us being a family, so he remembers what it feels like to have both of his parents love him under one roof. Please, it's my last request." Before Taehyung could respond with another angry retort, the sound of little footsteps echoed down the hall. Kookie ran into the dining room, his backpack slung over one shoulder, holding up his drawing. Appa, look, I packed my bag all by myself. Taehyung looked down at his son. The innocent, bright face of Kookie, so completely unaware of the tragedy fracturing his world, made something twist uncomfortably in Taehyung's chest. He looked back at Jungkook, whose eyes were wide, pleading, filled with a profound, unspoken agony. Taehyung exhaled a long, heavy breath, his shoulders dropping. Fine, he muttered, his voice tight. 3 months. But the day the 90 days are up, you sign the papers immediately. I promise, Jungkook whispered. Thank you.
The first month of their agreement took them to a small, secluded villa in Jeju Island. It was a place they had visited during the early years of their marriage, a quiet paradise surrounded by golden fields of silver grass and the roaring, deep blue ocean. To Kookie, it was a dream come true. His Appa and Dada were together, holding his hands as they walked along the sandy shores. Taehyung had promised to leave his phone in the villa during their family walks, a condition Jungkook had strictly enforced. Look, Appa, a giant crab, Kookie yelled, running toward a rock pool. Taehyung laughed, jogging after him, his long coat billowing in the wind. For a moment, watching them, Jungkook forgot the ticking clock inside his body. He stood on the shore, the cool ocean breeze hitting his face. But a sudden violent coughing fit seized him. He quickly pulled a white handkerchief from his pocket, pressing it to his mouth as he turned away from his family. When he pulled the cloth away, it was stained with bright crimson blood. Jungkook's heart hammered against his ribs. He quickly folded the handkerchief, stuffing it deep into his pocket, his breath shallow. The pain in his stomach was sharp, a burning fire that was slowly consuming him from the inside out. He took a deep breath, forced a bright smile onto his face, and walked toward his husband and son. That night, after Kookie had fallen asleep between them in the massive bed, Taehyung lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The room was dark, save for the moonlight filtering through the curtains. Suddenly, he felt a soft warmth press against his back. Jungkook had moved closer, wrapping his arms gently around Taehyung's waist, burying his face into the older man's shoulder blades. Taehyung stiffened. For months, they hadn't touched. He wanted to pull away, to tell Jungkook to stay on his side, but the quiet, desperate way Jungkook was holding him stopped him. Jungkook was trembling slightly, his breath warm but shaky against Taehyung's skin. Just for tonight, Tae, Jungkook whispered into the darkness, his voice cracking. Just let me hold you, please. Taehyung didn't pull away. He allowed the embrace, but he didn't turn around to hold him back. He remained rigid, a wall of stone, while behind him, Jungkook silently wept into the fabric of his shirt, mourning the loss of the man who was right there. Yet a million miles away. The second month brought Kookie's 6th birthday. Jungkook had thrown himself into planning the party with an intensity that bordering on frantic. He decorated the living room with hundreds of blue and gold balloons, baked a massive 3-tiered chocolate cake from scratch, and invited all of Kookie's kindergarten friends. Throughout the afternoon, Jungkook was the life of the party. He played games with the children, laughed, and ran around the garden. But Taehyung, watching from the kitchen window, noticed something strange. Jungkook looked incredibly pale. His skin had a translucent, almost fragile quality to it, and his shirt seemed to hang loosely off a frame that had grown significantly thinner over the past few weeks. At one point during the cake cutting, Jungkook handed the knife to Taehyung. As their fingers brushed, Taehyung flinched. Jungkook's skin was ice cold, burning with a strange dry heat underneath. Are you eating enough? Taehyung asked quietly, the question slipping out before he could stop it. You look thin. Jungkook didn't look at him. He kept his eyes on Kookie, who was blowing out his candles amid cheers from his friends. I'm just tired, Tae. Don't worry about it. It's a busy day. Later that evening, after the guests had left, Jungkook was in the kitchen washing the dishes. The physical exertion of the day had completely drained him. The pain medication was losing its efficacy. A sudden blinding wave of nausea and dizziness hit him, and his legs gave out beneath him. He collapsed onto the kitchen floor, a plate shattering beside him. Hearing the crash, Taehyung rushed into the kitchen. Jungkook! He found Jungkook sitting on the floor, his face devoid of color, gasping for air as he clutched his stomach. Taehyung knelt beside him, his hand reaching out to grab Jungkook's shoulder. "What's wrong with you? Are you sick?" Jungkook violently pulled away from his touch, his eyes wide with a panicked terror. "I'm fine," Jungkook snapped, his voice sharp with desperation as he forced himself to stand up, gripping the edge of the counter to keep his knees from buckling. "I just slipped on the water." "I'm fine, Taehyung. Go back to the living room." Taehyung stared at his hands, which were still empty in the air. A sudden, deep irritation flared up inside him. Why is he pushing me away? Why is he acting so strange? "Fine," Taehyung said coldly, standing up and brushing off his pants. "If you want to be stubborn, do it alone." He walked away, completely missing the way Jung. Kook collapsed back onto his knees the moment the door closed, vomiting blood into the sink, crying out in an agony that no medicine could soothe.